Feel good? You sure? All right. So today, as I told you last time, as I told you last time, this what we're starting to look at today really is in many ways the culmination of the class. It's what the rest of what you've read is driving us toward. And I'm not 100% sure exactly how far we'll get today. What I would suggest that you do, though, is for Friday to begin to read Book 2. And I'll give you, actually, because I know we're not going to get all the way through Book 2 next time, I'm going to give you a selection to read from it so that you can focus on, yeah, perfect. Okay, so Book 2, because probably what will happen is we'll do some of Book 1 today, we'll finish up Book 1 tomorrow, begin on Book 2. I've learned that I can't get through a single book of Paradise Lost in one class period. So Book 2, just read the first 500 lines. And that takes you from 1964 to 74. That will be plenty. That will be plenty. That will certainly be all we have time to go through by the end of class next time. Probably will take us on just a good minute. Now, did you read it? Hope you did. A couple of preliminary things really quick. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this, but I do want to do a couple of preliminary things real quick. Milton, this piece of work, of course, is an epic. It's self-consciously an epic. He makes it very clear from the very beginning of the piece that he's writing an epic piece. And the way you know that is he does some things that epic writers always do. He invokes a muse. He makes great claims for the scale of the topic. You'll remember that one of the things that epic poetry tends to do is tends to talk about things that are well above the ordinary life. And both the characters involved and the argument or the subject of the poetry has to be awfully high, real high. I will also tell you, right, that Milton, because of the subject matter of the piece, is writing an explicitly religious document. In fact, what is the story? Adam and Eve. Fall of man. That's why Paradise Lost, right? The story is Paradise Lost, how you lose paradise. And one of the things that you're going to see from the very beginning almost is the question, you've seen those words before, right? So you understand that they mean different things, and he's trying to examine through the use of an old form, the classical epic, whether or not the fall of man is something you can say to have been fated or something that is within the realm of providence, that is, that God's goodness works even when circumstances seem not to be working very well. Now, in order to do that, I want you to open your books to page 1946, and I want to look at the very opening few lines. Just the first 16 lines. By the way, the first 16 lines is one sentence, so you can sort of think about your sentence. And so he begins with the topic and the invocation of muse. Of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe with loss of Eden, till one greater man restores and regain the blissful seat, Sing, heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Orb or of Sinai didst inspire that shepherd who first taught the chosen seed in the beginning how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos. Or, if Zion hill delight thee more, and slow as brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God. I thence invoke thy aid to my adventurous song that with no middle flight intends to soar above the Aeonian mount, while it pursues things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. Okay, now, a couple of things. First of all, it makes very clear that he's going to talk about man's disobedience and, in line 4 and 5, restoration. He's also going to do something no one has ever done before. Line 15 and 16. Things unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. That's a high claim. And the interesting thing is, and this is just, I'm just going to throw this out there. One of the things that Milton does by writing Paradise Lost is he kills the classical epic dead. After Paradise Lost, there is no straightforwardly poetic epic that is written in English. There are mock epics, other kinds of things that pretend to be epics but aren't, but nobody writes another epic after this. This is the last one, at least in English. You don't get another one. And so, in some ways, kind of like when Shakespeare says, you know, he's going to make everybody remember the beauty of the beautiful young man, and we say, well, that's very sweet, but really, and as it turns out, we call him the beautiful young man. That's the same sort of thing that happens here, right? He makes a claim that he can't possibly know that he's going to fulfill, but in some ways, it's exactly what he does. Now, the next little bit is even more important, and it involves a phrase that you need to memorize. And chiefly thou, O Spirit. Which Spirit is he talking about there? Spirit of the Lord. Yeah, the Holy Spirit. Because if you're writing a Christian epic, or if you're a Christian, what kind of spirit or what kind of muse do you need? You need God, right? You need the third person of the Trinity to help you. That dost prefer before all temples the upright heart impure, instruct me, for thou knowest, thou from the first was present, and with mighty wings outspread, dove-like setst, brooding on the vast abyss, and madest it pregnant. What he's referring to there, of course, is the very opening of Genesis. Right? And the earth was formless and void, and the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. But the next part is the beginning. And this is the purpose of the epic. What in me is dark, illumine. What is low, raise and support. That to the height of this great argument I may assert eternal providence and justify the ways of God to men. We're going to do two things. We're going to assert providence and justify the ways of God. That's what he's writing this for. You need to remember that. Because everything else that follows in this poem, everything else that follows, is written so that we understand that despite what the narrative looks like in any one given circumstance, there is a larger project at work that works within the poem, and it works in the world. That's the way Milton is working. And he himself, frankly, had faced an enormous number of disappointments, including the failure of the English Commonwealth, among other things. That's something he had been really, really invested in. And some people like to make political allegory out of this thing. I'm not going to go in that direction. People study this book for their entire academic careers. They spend 30, 40 years studying this one book. So you understand there's an enormous amount in here. In fact, one of the things you notice as you read, right, is that there is so much in here that it's difficult to get it all in one go. So later on you read it again. Although Samuel Johnson also said, a later writer who read Paradise Lost and wrote about Milton said, yeah, but Paradise Lost is great. He says, but once it's plenty. Nobody ever wants to read it the second time. Your mileage may vary. But there's so much going on that you need to remember, right, that despite all the other things that are going on, this is what Milton's after. Jeremiah 27. What cause moved our grandparents in that happy state, favored of heaven so high, to fall off from their Creator and transgress his will for one restraint lords of the world besides? Who first seduced them to that foul revolt? Infernal search. He it was, whose guile stirred up with envy and revenge. Now, let's just keep track of the serpent who is whom? Right? Satan. And he says he acts out of guile, envy, and revenge. And, whoops, revenge. I want you to remember these words, because these descriptions are different from what Satan himself said. And what you're going to get in most of the rest of Book 1, as y'all noticed, I hope you noticed, is that who does Milton really write about first? Not God, Satan. Satan gets an enormous amount of time in the first couple of books. In fact, it's all Satan. It's all Satan all the time. And mostly what Satan does, talk. He talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. Now, if you're thinking about the story of Adam and Eve, you might be able to figure out why it is that Milton sets up Satan as a talker from the very beginning. I'm not going to say anything more about that right this second. But if you think about it, you can understand what quality it is that Satan possesses that Milton is trying to emphasize. Now, let's talk more about Satan. Guile stirred up within rate of revenge. This is line 35. Deceived the mother of mankind. What time his pride had cast him out from heaven with all his host of rebel angels, by whose aid, aspiring to set himself in glory above his peers, he trusted to have equaled the Most High if he opposed. And with ambitious aim, is ambition a good word or a bad word? Bad word, always bad word. With ambitious aim against the throne and monarchy of God, raised impious war, or we would say impious, but in the poetry it has to be impious. Raised impious war in heaven and battle proud with vain attempt. Him, the almighty power hurled headlong, flaming from the ethereal sky with hideous ruin and combustion down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire, who durst defy the omnipotent to arms. You realize how good poetry that is? You know how dramatic that is? It's just blank verse. Right? It's just Shakespeare language. But it is so, there's so much emphasis. And Milton is really, really good. Really good. And the more you read it, the more you recognize this. I've read this thing, 3 dozen times. Right? But there is so much energy in those words about him being hurled flaming headlong, right? And, the phrase bottomless perdition, let's face it, that's pretty. And so now it's Satan, and now we're in hell. Now the thought in line 55, now the thought of both of lost happiness and lasting pain torments him. Notice, the first description of Satan involves the word torment. Now I've told you before, and I'm going to say it again, particularly in this work, none of these words appear by accident. Okay? There's no editing trouble. Round he throws his baleful eyes of witnessed huge affliction and dismay mixed up with obdurate pride and steadfast hate. At once as far as angels can, he views the dismal situation, waste and wild, a dungeon horrible. On all sides around is one great furnace flame. From those flames no light, but rather darkness visible. Okay. So, there's where we begin. We begin with Satan in hell. And despite all of this sort of introductory material, really what you have to remember is that Satan gets the first crack at us, the readers. We listen to Satan speak about what has happened, and we listen to Satan speak about what has to happen next. And what I'm going to emphasize for y'all today and really next time, both these first couple of days, is that one of the things that Milton is doing very clearly is he's making Satan into a consummate orator. In other words, he's really, really, really good at making speeches. That's the thing he does better than anything else, is he is a consummate orator. Now, you tell me, what's the problem with somebody who speaks really well? They're very persuasive. That's not a problem. Why?
Because I can persuade you into doing that. It's like Satan did with that, didn't it?
Just because somebody's persuasive doesn't mean it's right? Sometimes the deception is relatively obvious, but if they're really good. So what we have to establish, before we establish anything else, I think Milton's being very, very strategic about this. What we have to establish before we establish anything else is that Satan is very good at what he chooses to do. And what he chooses to do mostly is talk. He's very good at it. So, his first speech begins in line 84. And it's a great speech. Remember, a lot hangs on this, right? Because you as the reader want to have some sort of investment in what's happening here, right? And Satan needs to be fairly impressive, doesn't he? In some ways. Because what was his position before? Let's just be clear. What was he before he was here? He was first among the angels, right? Traditionally speaking, right? We call him Lucifer, the angel of light, right? What's the first thing that God created? Light. Yeah. The first act of creation mentioned in Genesis is, let there be light. And there was light. And so I think one of the reasons that we think of Lucifer as chief among the angels is not just because, well, it's because mainly he's associated with the first thing that God created. Now there are other traditions that are growing. The Bible actually, frankly, to be honest, is very, very silent, or not, yeah, pretty silent on the subject of Satan, Lucifer, right? He appears in a couple of places, but we don't get a biography. Right? We don't get an account of the war in heaven. So a lot of this stuff Milton is not exactly making up. He's using whatever traditional materials he has. But you need to remember, and this is actually something that people get twisted up with if they're not careful. It's in the Bible. Okay? And Milton's not trying to write the Bible. He's not even attempting to tell you that this is the truth that the Bible would tell you if the Bible told you the whole truth. That's not, in fact, that's kind of satanic language, though. This is not what he's doing. What he is doing is trying to give us a narrative that explains something. Right? And this is the way he chooses to go about it. Now, Satan speaking. Look at the first 4 words. If thou beest he. What? I thought you said he was a good speech maker. Well, why not if thou beest he? He's talking to Beelzebub. He's right. Satan's right hand man. And they're both laying there on the burning lake, suffering and sort of, they're in an awful lot of trouble, right? It says, if thou beest he, but oh, how fallen, how changed from him who in the happy realms of light, clothed with transcendent brightness, didst thou shine myriads though bright. If he, whom mutual league, united thoughts and counsels, equal hope and hazard in the glorious enterprise, joined with me once, now misery hath joined in equal ruin. Into what pit thou seest from where I fall, so much the stronger prove to you with his thunder. Now, I want you to notice something. He makes a claim here. In line 89, what's the key phrase? What's he talking about? What's he talking about? What's the glorious symbol? I don't know, trying to overthrow God, trying to take control of heaven, losing the war in heaven. That's the glorious enterprise. I can tell from your faces that you're a little skeptical of this. That's the point. What's just happened? Well, I know, but before he starts convincing, what's just happened? Then we get out of heaven. And then it's in hell. How does it get worse? No, seriously, y'all. How does it get worse? If you're in charge of an enterprise of any kind, not just a car rental agency, but any kind of enterprise, and you end in hell, how's that worked out? It's as bad as it gets. It really, really, honestly, truly, it can't get any worse. So why is he called the glorious enterprise? Well, we made a good try. It was a good try. Think about Beowulf. Why does he fight the dragon? I'll stay here on the barrow and watch. I will fight the dragon single-handedly for the what? Do you remember the phrase? It's been a long time ago. The glory of winning. Glory. So again, we're back to that whole heroic notion that sometimes you do things, and even if you lose, at least you gave it your best shot, and the glory is in having made the attempt. You remember I told you that honor is in the attempt, not in the success. So he's already rehabilitating what has happened, right, by trying to make it into something heroic. Into what pit thou seest from when I'd fallen, so much the stronger proved he with his thunder. Until then, who knew the force of those dire arms? In line 94, there is another. Actually, in line 93 and 94, there is another claim. Who knew? Who knew? Who knew that God was powerful? Right? What's he actually saying? How can you expect that? What's he doing? You know what they call this, right? You know what they call it. This is the classic CYA. Right? Cover your ass. Right? Oh, isn't it? Whose fault is it? It's Satan's. It was his idea. As you learn later, it really was his idea. It's entirely his idea. He's the one who convinced 1/3 of heaven's angels to follow him, so that they could overthrow heaven. Okay? Overthrow God. And this is what they've come to. So do you see what he's doing already? CYA. You know, well, it was a good try, and we really didn't know that it was going to be that bad. It turns out he's really powerful. And so after he displaces blame, he follows that up with this. Yet not for those, nor what the potent victor in his rage can else inflict, do I repent or change, though change is not with luster, that fixed mind and high disdain from sense of injured merit that with the mightiest raised me to contend, and to the fierce contention brought along innumerable force of spirits armed that durst dislike his reign in me, preferring his utmost power with adverse power opposed in dubious battle on the plains of heaven, and shook his throne. Think about how many things he's saying there. Think about how many claims he's making, not just about himself and what they've done, but also about God. Can you see me? Like what? They shook his throne. We shook his throne. Whose throne? They shook God's throne? Did they really? Of course not. portion that you don't read, that I'm not having you read, when Milton describes the first going out of the battle, when God realizes, when God addresses the fact that he's got these rebel angels that are amassing in the north of heaven and they're going to try to rebel against him. You know what he does? He makes a joke. He's like, see those guys? They look dangerous, don't they? And the son says, yeah, you better watch out. And they chuckle. Well, it's true. It really is. So, that's a lie. What other claims does he make? Did you see? There's more. Look how he describes himself, y'all, in 96, 97, and 98. Yet not for those do I repent or change, though changed in an outward luster, that fixed mind. Think about what he's saying about himself. That no matter what happens to me, at least my mind is fixed. I will not change just because I've been thrown into hell. I won't change no matter what. It doesn't matter what happens to me. My mind will not budge. Again, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like a hero to you? Think Beowulf standing on the barrel. When the dragon comes out, what am I going to do? I'm not going to move a muscle. I will not budge. And notice that Beowulf doesn't ask for help either, even when he's being roasted alive. Again, that heroic impulse is clearly there, and Satan is setting himself up at that kind of person, or being. There's more. What about God? What about line 95? What does he say about God? How does he describe that? Because you've got to watch two things here. You're not only watching how Satan describes himself, but how he describes God as well. And look at the phrase he uses to describe God.
The potent victor in his rage.
The potent victor in his rage. Rage? What is rage? What kind of anger? Really, really strong anger. You can be angry, right? Now, what is the thing that happens in rage that doesn't happen in anger?
Act on something.
You can act on something. What's present in anger that's not present in rage? Reason. Reason. When Christ casts the money changers out of the temple, for instance, he is clearly angry, right? He takes a whip and he starts, turning over tables and whipping people and driving them out. That's anger. It's not rage. Does God rage? Why is it important? Satan said that he does. Trying to make it seem like God isn't so good. Right. Call God's goodness into question. Right? Always. And I want you to notice how quickly these things come at you. I'm doing it very slowly, and we're not going to do it very slowly every time, right? But I'm doing it very slowly because I want you to notice that these things come at you so fast that if you're not paying really close attention, you buy it. Why? Because, right? I mean, there's too many things to keep track of. There are too many claims. And they come at you so quickly. And they sound compelling because he knows how to make them sound compelling. So he calls God a potent victor who is raging. He calls himself the leader of a glorious enterprise that shook God's throne. Who's looking like the hero here? Look how it continues. Line 105. What though the field be lost? All is not lost. The unconquerable will. Does that sound good? It sounds great. The unconquerable will and study of revenge, immortal hate, and courage, never to submit or yield. Wow, unconquerable will and courage never to submit or yield. Again, heroic